Hello, curling fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Broom Brothers, the official podcast of the Grand Slam of Curling and the Curling Group. Very, very excited this week. Last year, after the Brier was over, we talked to Ben Hebert, we talked to Paul Webster about Team Jacob's big win. We loved what Coach Webby had to say on that show. I mean, we loved what Ben had to say too. But Webby wanted to come back. We wanted to have him back. And so with the recent Team Jacobs win at the Canadian Olympic Trials, we are going to talk to Marc Kennedy, followed by Paul Webster. Had absolutely great chats with both of them. You're going to love everything they have to say. Before we get to that, do need to mention, of course, this episode is brought to you by Gold Line Curling, the choice of champions. They are the top name in curling equipment manufacturing. And right now, they are in the middle of the 12 days of Christmas over at goldlinecurling.com. They've got a bunch of deals going on. So make sure you check that out. We talked on the last episode. I got brand new shoes, a brand new broom, little inside baseball. We recorded that episode 2 days ago, so I haven't had a chance to try them yet, but I'm looking forward to updating you once I do. But yeah, there's a ton of great deals happening right now for you and your loved ones at Christmas. And again, Goldline is the choice of champions, but it's not just for the pro game. They have tons and tons of products for the recreational curler: brooms, shoes, pants, apparel, gloves, helmets, you name it. They've got it all. So head on over to, I don't know if they have helmets. They have head protection. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't had to wear it. I probably should though, because I am pretty stupid and I don't curl much anymore. So you know what? Might be time for old JC to put a helmet on. But I digress. Goldlinecurling.com, the choice of champions. Check them out and check this out. It is our chat with none other than the third for Team Brad Jacobs heading to his fourth Olympics. Here's Marc Kennedy. All right, I am pleased to be joined by the recently crowned 2025 Olympic Trials champion for the third time, a third-time Trials champion, Marc Kennedy. And Marc, we'll get right into it. This is, as I said, your third time winning the Olympic Trials. I could ask you how it feels. I already know the answer. It's good. It's great. You're having the time of your life. I want to know, how is it different from the other two? How does it feel different?
Didn't think you were going there. It's a good question, though. I think the first two were very, I got to think about this for a second.
What did you think I was going to ask you? We can answer that question.
No, I haven't really thought about the difference in how it felt. I'm trying to give you a real good, legit answer here. I think this one feels a little more, I want to say a little more calm and relaxed. That not that we expected to win, but we knew that we had a really good chance to win. And you know what? I'm just older. I'm older. That's the biggest difference. You're young and you win those ones. It's incredibly surreal and overwhelming and exciting. And there's, it's just like a lot of noise for 4 or 5 days of media and congratulations. And you got to be here and you got to be there. And it's a lot. And I found this one to be a little bit more kind of look around and smell the roses a bit. Like I'm enjoying this one more. I'm a little more relaxed with the chaos that comes, enjoying it a little bit more with my kids. They're a little bit older, had some time at home now. I think I'm just relishing it more now than I did the other two. And possibly because I know that this is the last one, so I don't really want to miss any of it. So that's probably the biggest difference, John.
Yeah, no, I get that. People do say that about the Olympics, that it is this big hubbub. And maybe let's talk about your daughters briefly, because as you said, they are getting older. They're both teenagers now. I have to imagine it was already cool. Your dad's this is your 4-time Olympian. You've won the trials 3 times. This is your 4th time as an Olympian. I imagine that's already cool, but there's got to be some kind of like cool dad points for going to the Olympics, right?
Yeah, I think there was years when my oldest was in junior high that when I was driving her to school in my driving force truck that had my curling slide and my name glossed on the side that she didn't think that was overly cool. But they've both been, I think they're old enough now to kind of know what I do and what I've done. And, I think they think it's pretty cool. They've got some friends that are like, wow, your dad's an Olympian. That's pretty awesome. And my youngest, Brecken, who's here, is she loves to curl. So, we've had 3 practice sessions this week, and she loves going out on the ice and wearing the Kennedy name. And I think this one at their age, 14 and 17, is going to mean a lot to them as they get older. And that's why, we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're coming over to Italy to enjoy the experience and see what the Olympics is all about. And it's a pretty sweet bonding moment between your kids when you can do something like what we do. It just creates incredible memories, and they're proud of me and what I do. And I think that goes a long way with our just our relationship. So yeah, I love it. It's the best part about it from a personal perspective is the kids.
Beautiful. That's great. I mentioned it is your 4th Olympics, and I know that you're a pretty humble guy. You don't love to talk about yourself, but I want to know, like, how does that happen? Because that could end up being a record. I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult. I think it's going to be very difficult for Canadian curlers. Yeah. That's going to be a very difficult feat to match. I know once was as an alternate, but that still counts. Yeah. You were there. You have the bronze medal at home. Like, you'll tell me some bullshit. Oh, I work really hard. Everybody works really hard. So like, what is it actually, Marc, do you think that has kind of been the key to your success, at least on this stage? I mean, you've had success outside the Olympics too, but when you think about like being a 4-time Olympian, is there something you can point to that you think has allowed you to have this amount of success other than just, I work really hard?
Well, John, I do work hard. I'm just teasing you. So, taking you back to the middle of this week, once we had qualified for the playoffs, I said to Paul, Paul, it's pretty cool. This is my 6th trials, and this will be the 6th time we've made the playoffs. Like, that's crazy. And Benny was our alternate in the first year too, in 2005. So for him and I both, 6 trials, 6 playoffs. I can't put my finger on why, other than, we always, from the days of Kevin Martin, we embraced the 4-year process. I know not every curler did. I know a lot of them, the Brier was still the big thing, or they didn't want to make the Olympics this big, goal to get to. But for us, for Benny and I, that was our plan. Like, put together a 4-year plan. Let's figure out how to peak. And when we get to that final event, let's try to be the best team there. And I think as time's gone on, sorry, it might be a little loud here.
No, that's okay.
As time's gone on, we've just kind of gotten really good at that 4-year process. And, if you look at the 3 trials that we won the Brier the year before every time. So that build up to the year before, try to win a big event, so that you have the belief that you can win. And anything you do from that point forward is really just fine tuning and trying to get just that little bit better, because you're going to need to. And then by the time the trials come around, you're just ready to go. So some of it, I think, just has to do with that mindset of that 4-year process that we really did embrace right from day one of joining into men's curling. Other than that, Johnny, maybe great skips. Like,
that helps for sure.
Like, every trials I've been to, the skip I've been with has gotten hot. Like, right from the first one with John Morris, when we lost the semifinal and we weren't expected to go that far. John played unbelievable that week. And then obviously Kevin Martin in Edmonton, and Kevin Cooey in 2017, and even Brad Jacobs in 21. I know we lost the final to the GU, but I think every skip I've played for is played in the 90s at the Olympic trials. So that probably has something to do with it as well, my friend.
That's a good, that's a good tactic. I've never been able to find that skip to play with me, but it's still a work in progress. I retired 6 years ago, but I'm still trying to find my way.
Trying. Keep looking. You never know where to find it.
I doubt it. I'm just seniors. That's my hope, is like, I'm getting to be friends with enough top level curlers now. By seniors, I figure one of them will play with me. Yeah, exactly. I want to talk specifically about game 2 of the trials, because a lot of people, especially in the aftermath, in your own team, but even just watching on TV, talked about how fine of a game you played. I believe Brad Jacobs described it as Marc blacked out before the game started, and then he woke up when it was over. How do you go about, aside from like the 4-year process and stuff, but in those moments, like you said, that you're playing in what is ultimately one of the biggest games of your career, how do you manage to bring out the best in yourself in that moment? Because that is really what separates the great athletes from the truly elite ones.
Yeah. Again, we work really hard, John. That's the, you know, I talked a little bit about it after the game, but this trials in particular for me, I said, I was at peace with my game. And I think what I meant by that was I worked really, really hard on a lot of the intangibles that maybe I haven't been great at over the years, you know, and doing a little bit of a deeper dive here with you. But like sometimes the big moments I missed shots. Sometimes I'd be playing Brad Gushu, Mark Nichols. It'd be a big moment in a Briar and I would, you know, I'd miss the weight. I'd be heavy, or it was just little things. And so I worked really hard on mentally, you know, if I'm getting back into those moments, where am I going to be emotionally? Like, am I going to be able to just, you know, stay calm, focus on my process, nail the weights? And that's a really hard thing to do in those big moments. But for some reason this year, going into that event, I just felt extremely calm and relaxed. And, you know, even to the point where if Brett missed a shot, or Benny, or maybe the front end didn't have a great end, I think in the past I would have been thinking, oh man, you know, if I miss this shot, we're dead. You know, if I don't make this, we're going to lose. If I miss this, we're going to give up a big end. And something changed in me now where it's, you know, if that happens, my gut instinct is, oh wow, what an opportunity. Like, what an opportunity I have to get us out of this end. Man, if I can make a big one here, the boys will be jacked. They'll be awesome. Just a little bit more of that opportunity, big shot mentality. And I'm not afraid to lose anymore. You know, that's the big one. Like, really, you know, we play a very results focused sport for a long time. And there was always expectations ever since we were winning with Kevin Martin that we would continue to win. And I didn't realize it until now that I was probably very results focused for a long time. And, you know, losing games had impact on me. Losing big events hurt. And so maybe there was a part of me that was afraid of losing to a certain extent. And that prevented me from playing good in the big moments because there was a little bit of fear deep down in there. And that's gone now. And that's for a lot of reasons. That's for, you know, trusting my teammates, enjoying the experience, having an amazing family at home where this was the first thing I said to Devin Heroux after the game is I didn't need to win this event. I've had a great career. I don't need any more wins. I want to win and it's fun, but if I lose, I wake up, I jump on a flight home and I've got an incredible family, an incredible life. I'm good. I'm content. And, you know, sitting in that hack in that game, every big shot I had, I really felt relaxed, calm, and like, wow, I have a great opportunity here to do something really cool. So let's do it. And I think that's something that's evolved in me and changed over the past decade and has kind of allowed me to play better in some of those big moments. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer. I hope it makes sense.
I love a long-winded answer on the Broom Brothers. You never have to apologize for that with me. Perfect. And I think you just said a lot of stuff that's really valuable. You know, I think a lot of curlers, young curlers will be listening to this. So, you know, I think any insight you can provide is good and also a little bit scary, I think, for your opponents. If you if you're going in there with no fear, I'd be a little scared of that. You brought up your teammates a lot in that you know, what you were saying there. And I want to talk about your teammates because you did bring up playing with Brad and you lost the trials final in 2021. Obviously you had EJ and Ryan on the team at that time, but I want you to tell me a little bit about how Brad has evolved in the last few years, because again, I'm just watching on television. I don't pretend to know the inner workings of everything, but I've watched enough curling games and I've watched Brad for long enough to know that this sort of feels like that was like optimal Brad or like the best Brad that we've ever seen. Did you notice a change even from 2021? And can you vocalize what that change is?
I think, we had 3 years together going into 2021. I think in that 3 years, we learned a lot about each other and kind of evolved in that small amount of time. He was great at those 21 trials. Fast forward 5 years, his evolution is a couple things. One, his leadership skills have only continued to improve. I've said this a lot this week. He's very accountable when he makes mistakes. He leads by example. Nobody throws more rocks. Nobody works harder. He's in the gym all the time. That makes a really easy guy to play hard for. So those leadership skills have come a long way. And the shot making part is interesting. And I know you had Paulie on before, but I think we kind of revolutionized practice in curling over the past few years. I know you've talked a little bit about that with Paul before, and I won't go too deep into it, but we developed a practice system and a practice drill that allows the four of us to go out and practice on our own and make sure that we're all doing the same things. We've eliminated the need for all four of us to get together all the time to practice, because we're doing the same things every single time we go out on the ice. Slide lines, release, rotation, weight, how much inch of a set are you giving on every shot? Like, it took a long time to get there. And then now once we've got there, it's just been fine tuning ever since. And we've started to see some great results. So going back to the Brad thing, when we brought Brad on board, he was always an incredible shot maker, but a lot of it was, I don't think he could even tell you what his plan was when he was throwing the rock. Like, what are you trying to do here? Where are you trying to slide? Where are you trying to throw it? What's your weight control? So we took Brad into the weeds with us and said, look, this drill, like, you're a great player already. This drill could be the difference between you being great and unbelievable. And Brad embraced it. And since he kind of wrapped his head around what we were doing in practice, and, we started to see that evolve last year around January. We made a couple of trials finals, slam finals. And then going into the Brier, we saw a pretty terrific Brad at the Brier in the Worlds. And that's when we knew, we've got a pretty incredible shot maker here, maybe the best in the world, a great leader. And then the third part of that is the strategy side. Like, we figured out as a team when Brad needs help, who should help him, where that communication is coming from. So, but I mean, all the credit in the world to Brad. He was already a great player, and he embraced some of our culture and some of our tactics and stuff. And it's just made him an absolute beast in these big events. And, you talk about my calmness and stuff in the game and playing great. A lot of that is because you've got Brad behind you. Like, we trust him to make just about any single shot we put in front of him. And that creates a huge amount of belief and trust in all the guys in front of you. Like, we've all played for skips that are struggling. It's amazing how much that can change the communication and the culture and the fragility of a team. And then when you got a guy like Brad Jacobs, it's like a foundational belief that reverberates through the lineup every time you go out on the ice. So yeah, he's been pretty incredible.
No question. I want to move on to, we could talk about Brad all day, but I want to move on to, and he would love it if we did, I'm sure. But I saw this video crossed my social media feed yesterday or the day before, and it was really interesting. It was the four of you were all sitting there, and you were asked to compliment your teammates, and you kind of went in order. Ben complimented you complimented Brett, etc. And you gave an answer when you complimented Brett that I thought was really interesting. So for those who haven't seen it, this is what you said. I'm going to read your words back to you. You said, Brett has more curling IQ and knowledge than any front ender in the game. Arguably the best second to play the game since I did, which made me laugh out loud. That was good. I said, this week he is the emotional engine of our team, and I don't know if I've ever been more confident out on the ice with a guy like Brett sweeping my rocks and judging weight. And most importantly, a great friend to all of us. So yeah, love you, man. Now, this is like a fluffy social media video. Yeah. Why did you take that moment to say all of that stuff about Brett? Why did it feel important to say that?
I think I probably told him a few times last week, but you know, if you want to rewind a little bit, we were at the Grand Slam in Tahoe a couple of weeks ago, and you know, you're 2 weeks out from the trials. Everybody can feel a little bit of tension and nervousness about the event coming up, and I think Brett might have been a little bit tight that week, and there was a little bit more frustration, a little bit of anger, a little bit of tension amongst the group. And, you know, we had a bit of a conversation as a group, and some of it was directed towards Brett. And I had said it to him in that meeting. I said, you know, when you're in a good place energy wise and you're positive and you've got my back especially, but all of our backs, we do feel like a much better team. So we challenged him. We challenged him to bring that energy to the trials. And he did that and then some. Like, he was a rock last week. You know, and I don't just mean shooting percentages. Like, you don't win an event at second. You know, you can help win an event with your shot making, but you can do a lot of other things that are going to make your back end play great. And Brett specifically, you know, not taking anything away from Ben. He's a beast in his own right. But what Brett brought with, you know, energy and fist bumps and taps on the back and keeping everybody positive in stressful situations, he just needed to hear that, because he's a beast of a man. And he's got a lot of, you know, there's an aura about him. You know, he's and when he puts that energy in the right direction, he makes everybody around him better. So, and hey, we just won the trials, and I was about 4 hours of sleep, and I felt like getting a little fluffy love towards my teammates. So that's why I did it. But I wanted him to know.
No, I mean, it was, I mean, like I say, I know that it is just a video for social media, but I felt watching it like it was intentional. So that's why I wanted to ask you about it, because even your teammates were like, whoa, okay, Marc, like, slow down, little deep, buddy.
It was on my mind. And look, it's, you know, even going a little bit further, and I know you probably talked about it with Paul, but like, we're 4 very good, talented curlers. But we've known for a while here that it's the best teams that win. Like, what do we got to do to be the best team? And we've tried to figure that out the best we could with the help of Paul. And that was just one of those things that made us a really, really good team last week. And a lot of that came from Brett. So, yeah, he needed to hear it.
I love it. What would your answer have been if you were asked to compliment Ben?
Ben and I are like an old married couple. Ben is, well, listen, we had to be careful last week with how strong Benny's sweeping was. Like, you guys might have seen it a couple times on TV,
yep.
But Ben's 42 years old and backing rocks up and dragging him 15 feet. Like that, he wants to win so bad that he just gives it his all the time. Look, I love him. Like, we've had an incredible career together, and what I tell people is the longer we play together, the more we appreciate one another. You know, there was years there where we butted heads a bit. We have very different personalities on the ice. You know, sometimes getting arguments, or we don't talk for a game, and that doesn't happen much anymore. It's we know what to say to one another. We appreciate one another, and yeah, he's been the best lead in the world for 20 years. Like, last week's a good example. A couple of the games early in the week, you know, he would say it himself. He probably didn't play his best, but there's no doubt that when the games get big and important later in the week, that he's going to be the best lead out there, and he was, and I've seen it a million times. So I have nothing but faith in him every time we step out on the ice, and I'm extremely fortunate to have had a long career with Ben Hebert.
You brought it up earlier, just a couple more. You brought it up earlier. You have kind of alluded to this is probably your last Olympics. Does that change anything for you going into it? It sounds like it maybe helped change your mindset a little bit at the trials, but now that you've won the trials, the Olympics are on the horizon for you. It's likely your last one. Does that change anything for you and how you're approaching it?
It probably does. You know, even without thinking about it subconsciously, it probably changes a little bit of the approach. But, you know, I've had an interesting Olympic journey. And what I mean by that is my first Olympics was the ultimate fairy tale. Like, you and I have talked about this a lot, but
yeah,
you know, undefeated, home country, you know, Kevin Martin getting his gold medal. I don't even know if we were down the whole week. more than
Yeah.
1 point.
Crowd starts
So-
singing the national anthem when you're throwing in the gold medal game and about to win.
It just doesn't beat, you can't top that. And so going back in 2017 with Kevin Cooey, you're still kind of thinking it's going to be a fairy tale. And South Korea put on a good show, but it wasn't Vancouver. It's not the same support in the crowd. We had a reasonably good week. Ice conditions were tough. We didn't play great. You get to the semifinal, you lose to Schuster. You get to the bronze medal game and you lose, and you're coming and just out of nowhere, in the blink of an eye, you're coming home in 4th place, and you're like, wow, this doesn't feel like Vancouver. Like polar opposites of the emotional spectrum of experiences. Still a great experience. You're still Olympians forever, but it's just a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth. So going back this time, I think for me, and I can't speak for my teammates, but there's a huge amount of excitement, and you can't wait to go to the Olympics. And it's an honor and a privilege to represent Canada. But this time I felt a little bit of like, okay, now we have a responsibility to go over there and play really well. Like now's the responsibility part of all these Canadian fans and friends and family that support us and want us to represent. We need to bring something home for them. So let's go there and let's prepare first really well. Let's continue to get better, and then let's go there and put on a really good performance, because that's the one thing in South Korea we didn't do is play our A game. And you leave there with that little bit of regret, like, man, if we just would have played our best, we probably would have won. And so I want to go there and no guarantees, of course, but really want to go there and put on a good performance and play well. So I think I'm a little bit more mentally and emotionally prepared to go over there and just play really freaking well and make Brad's shots as easy as possible and try to come home with some hardware.
Love it. Love it. Final one. I got to put your feet to the fire here a little bit, because you did address this in Tahoe already. You kind of, you squeaked it out on the Rock channel. Devin Haru talked to you and he said, what's going on next quad, and you the answer you gave was, well, this is probably my last trials, but you didn't say this would be your last year. I'm not saying you have to give a definitive answer. There's lots to come, but I was curious, would a result at the Olympics, one way or the other, affect your decision to maybe play one more year or 2 more years? Or is it just going to be how you feel once the season is over? Like, are you thinking about that at all?
Well, you're talking to a guy that retired once already about 6 years ago and then came back and played. So I'm not even sure if you can take what I say. You got to take it for what it's worth.
Well, you are older this time. There is that.
I am older this time. It is top of mind. It's something we've started to discuss. I can't say either way what's going to happen. I was certainly leaning towards this being my last year, barring a wonderful result or something that makes it really difficult to walk away. So again, at this moment, we'll see. We're knee deep in logistics to get to Italy at the moment. It's not even something Nicole and I have talked about. What's the plan for next year? So I think, if I'm being really honest, I'm probably waiting until after the Olympics, and then again, waiting till after the Brier. And then we'll make a decision after that. And to your question, it probably is a little bit result dependent, whether I play for another year or 2. And I guess I'll just leave it at that and see where we go from here.
Yeah, fair. It's like, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if he wins gold, does that mean he'll want to keep playing? Because usually that comes with more sponsorship dollars and more attention. You can kind of play another year, bank another check. Or does winning gold be like, I could retire on top, baby? Like, it's sort of a fascinating debate that way, I think, like, at least when I think about it.
Yeah. And I remember Kevin Martin going through that after Vancouver. I think there was a part of Kevin that was ready to retire and walk away after 2010. And then to your point, you end up with so many opportunities. That's the problem. Whether it's sponsors, whether it's event invites, you get to go on a bunch of speaking tours and continue to curl. It makes it hard to walk away. And I kind of threw Benny under the bus in that Rock Channel interview too, because I think I said we were a package deal, and he's like, "Why did you do that?" I'm like, I don't know. I just assumed that if I left, you would leave too, but maybe not. So yeah, and that I think, and 2017 probably taught me that too. That it is a little bit result dependent on the Olympics. That determines whether you want to stay in the community and continue to curl. So,
right,
we'll see how it goes.
All right. I wasn't expecting a straight answer. I was just curious if now that you've won the trials, if it had changed anything. So I think I would say I am mostly satisfied with your answer.
Well, here, let me ask you this.
Makes you feel better.
What would you do? Like, based on the two situations you said, would stick around and take all the good stuff, or would you want to walk out on top as a gold medalist if we happen to win gold?
Here's what I think. You want and this is like
this is me interviewing you. Okay.
Here's what I would do. Okay. If I'm Marc Kennedy. Well, first of all, I'd play in a bunch of events right away, because I'm way better than I am now at curling. But no. Okay. I actually said this on Broom Brothers this week with Robbie. Okay. Let's say you win the gold medal. If I'm Marc Kennedy, this is what I'm doing. I am convincing Tyler Tardi to be the 5th on my team next year. So you're a 5-person unit. It allows you and or Ben to take a couple tournaments off as needed. So it's sort of like a gradual retirement. You get one more Brier. Maybe that's where you get to go out on top. You know, Tyler can sit on the bench at the Brier next year in Saskatoon. You can win in Ben's home province. You get all those opportunities. You get that sponsorship money. You're not necessarily leaving Brad and Brett in the lurch, because then Tyler plays with them full time in 2 years and they add one more guy.
Okay.
Happy birthday. How's that sound?
Happy birthday. Sounds good. Who has to play the curling club events? Me or Benny?
Well, you have to trade. But this year you only played one curling club event. So you and Ben would have to maybe maybe we could do like a televised boxing match or something to decide who
I love it,
John. Who has to play Okotoks or not.
I love it. Hey, not a bad idea. I'll bring that to Brad and see what he says.
Okay. Well, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there. To me, that feels like a good plan.
Okay. I like it. We'll see how it goes. Before we go, though, I know we've talked a lot about our team and we've talked a lot about what we did, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a little bit about Matt's team, right? I mean, that's
yep.
That's the best team in Canada all year. Beat us 3 times handily. The way that they have pushed us to get better, and I'd like to think we've pushed them to get better. It was nice to see the 2 best teams in Canada battle it out, and that could have gone either way. I just wanted to, acknowledge them and how great they've been and how incredible that back end is and the long career that they're going to have together. And just wanted to say how unbelievable they are. And I know they still got a lot to play for this year, but yeah, pretty incredible young curlers, and the Harnden brothers as well. Got a lot of respect for them and played with them. I know that was a heartbreaking loss, but just a ton of respect for that team and what they've been able to do this year.
Well said. I had something in here to ask you about Matt, but then we rambled about other things.
I got busy talking about me, myself, and I.
I was asking you about you though. So you're allowed, when you're being interviewed, you're allowed to talk about yourself, Marc. That is how it goes. Thank you, my friend, for joining us. Always love chatting to you. Congratulations again. And hey, it looks like I'll see you in about 9 days. So looking forward to that too.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks for your time, pal. Really appreciate it. And just a quick shout out to all of our sponsors and family and friends that have supported us right from day one of this journey, and we're happy to share all of this with them. And looking forward to Italy in a couple months, and we'll see you in Saskatoon next week, Johnny.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. That's Marc Kennedy. Love it. Wow, what a great chat that was with Marc Kennedy. Always love talking to him. I especially love talking to him in these big moments. Like, he's not a guy that's afraid to be introspective. He's a guy that will talk about those big moments and exactly what he was feeling. Feels like he's in a very introspective mode in his career right now. So it's great to chat to him. You may have also noticed that he referenced that I had already talked to Paul. Again, little peek behind the curtain. We interviewed Paul first. So That's why he was talking about that. So you may hear a little bit of overlap in this interview with Paul Webster, but it is a great one. As I said off the top of the show, always love talking to Paul. And a reminder, this episode brought to you by Goldline Curling, goldlinecurling.com. We're talking about supporting Team Canada at the Olympics. No better way to do that than with the official Team Canada 2026 apparel. That's available at goldlinecurling.com. Beautiful logo and jacket design by Shelby Gagnon, Steph Schmidt, the whole team at Goldline. You can get the jacket that Canada is wearing in Milano Cortina. You can get sweaters. Oh, thumbs up on YouTube. I got to disable my reactions. Anyway, if you're listening to this in a car, it doesn't matter, but I had the super thumbs up on my StreamYard. Anyway, there's a lot of inside baseball talk here for some reason, but a beautiful, beautiful logo designed by Shelby Gagnon. That's on the front of sweaters, hoodies, t-shirts. We know you want to support Canada in Milano Cortina. That is the way to do it. So you can head on over to goldlinecurling.com. They've got all of your apparel needs and, of course, all your curling equipment needs as well. Okay, without any further ado, it is time to chat to the coach himself, Paul Webster, the main man. As I said, we loved having him on after the Brier. Even more great nuggets in here. If you are a curler, especially a younger curler, if you're a curling coach, I mean, this guy is at the absolute top of his field right now. You can tell just by talking to him how dialed in he is with Team Jacobs. So here he is. It is Coach Paul Webster. Well, here he is, the coach of the 2025 Canadian Olympic Trials winners, Team Jacobs, Paul Webster, making your triumphant return to the program. I will say this, some curlers we have had on the program 0 times, but you as a coach, time number 2, you're in very esteemed company here.
Oh, well, I like that, John. If the only thing I have to do is to win the Brier and then win the Olympic trials to do that, I like those. So I really want to come on a 3rd time, is what you're saying.
If you guys win the Brier, I will have you on a 3rd time. I mean, people did love your appearance on the show last time, so it felt fitting to bring you back now that you've gotten that big trophy. It's not behind you. I guess you don't even really get a trophy, right? You get a medal. I guess it's not a trophy.
Yeah, medal, a pat in the back, a long list of things that need to be done before you head off to the Olympics. We're kind of calling it first world winning problems.
Yes. Well,
we're going to embrace those.
Yeah, those are good problems to have, and we'll get to some of that. But I want to start right off the top with what I feel is a sort of obvious question, which is, you worked for Curling Canada as part of their staff for a very long time. And as part of that job, you went to every Olympics. So when you accepted this job with Team Jacobs, you were potentially facing down not going to the Olympics for the first time in quite some time. So now that you have sort of won your way to the Olympics, can you describe the feeling, compare it? Is there any comparison? How does it feel to sort of, for lack of a better word, earn your way to the Olympics?
It's not, it's the exact word is earn. It feels great. It feels like relief, like vindication, like exhaustion, but completely, absolutely, there's no comparison to the 2 different experiences. Those last 5 Olympics, you're there at the trials waiting for the teams that win. You've got great relationships with them. There have been teams in the past where I've taken a fairly active coaching role, but you don't know that going in, depending on what happens at the Olympics. Brad's 2014 team was a great example. The 2018 mixed doubles team. But you've got to be ready to be a chameleon in those circumstances and be whatever those teams need you to be. If that's restaurant reservation guy and driving people to and from practice facilities, that's what you do. This time, man, it's really cool to say out loud to the world, to your family, to those that you love, this is what I want to do. This is our ultimate goal, and then do it. So 4 years later, we put this team together initially to win the Olympic trials and get to the Olympics, and we want to go win a medal now. And to say that out loud, to be in that event, and for the boys to perform at the level that they did, it's really cool. I'm not sure if I'll be able to adequately express it in words for a while, other than every time I think of it, I just smile. really big.
Well, and I'm sure it has to feel good for you too, in that I would say, and this is just me observing, but I've been a curling fan for a very long time, and I think that there are obviously and have been great team coach relationships in the past. That's I'm not saying anything that people don't know, but also curling does have this culture. We, especially on the men's side of the game, where we choose our own coaches and we kind of just do our own thing, and our coach helps, but they're not necessarily like a fit. They don't feel like a fifth member of the team. And it sort of feels different in this case. Like, it felt like all of the guys were making a point to mention you in post-game interviews, not just at the trials, but in other big moments for this team, and talk about how big of a part of this team you are. Was that what you expected when you took this role with this team, that you would kind of almost be the de facto fifth member? Is that something that's happened over time? Like, explain how that came to be, because as I say, this feels like one of the tightest coach team relationships that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have had expectations to say that, 4 years ago, this is what I would have felt like in terms of relationship with each individual guy, but also how they see me from a team perspective. But that said, when Benny and Brett and Marc were talking about this potential team, Benny, I've known him since 2004. Went to the Olympics together in 2010. He called me initially and said, would you ever consider this type of coaching role? I said, maybe. Like, I don't want to say no. I don't want to say yes at the moment. Once they got the team with original skip Brendan Botcher, it seemed like a no-brainer. Not to say I'd been done everything in curling until then, but I was ready for a new challenge and new experience for myself. I'd never coached at a Brier, Scotties or Canadian juniors prior to that. I'd done a lot of consulting and coaching work within Ontario when I was teaching, and then Alberta as the high performance coach. But I couldn't, part of my contract is I couldn't coach a team. So I was excited to be part of that team atmosphere. I got to admit, some of those events you see the ongoings in and out of slams and Briers and stuff, it seems like a lot of fun. And it is. These guys are working their asses off to be the best in the world, and to be a part of that, I challenge myself on a daily basis. When I see how hard they work, I want to ensure I'm working just as hard. So I can't throw the rocks, but there are times I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if that's important. I'm like, oh my God, if they did the same thing, we wouldn't be going to the trials. We wouldn't have a chance to win it. So whether it's new technology or just how we're doing team meetings or what I'm prepping the team room for, all that kind of stuff, I think I've worked really, really hard to become part of this team and an equal part of it. But I think, much as in life, choosing the teammates is a big part of it. And I knew before this even started, Brendan included, but Brad now, that those are 5 individuals that are upstanding people and human beings. And I knew that was the potential. I wasn't going on the team with someone I wouldn't want to have a beer with. So I wasn't just grabbing the best player out there and saying, whatever, he's I'm not sure if I would describe him as a solid character or don't really represent his values, but these guys, what I hold near and dear in life, they do too. And so that makes, all the hard work we do, and they trust me and respect me, and that allows me to do my job.
I love that. And speaking of your job, let's get into the nuts and bolts a little bit, because you have mentioned, 4 years ago, Ben gives you that phone call, probably that summer you're playing golf or you're sitting out on a dock somewhere or whatever, thinking about this moment that you've now achieved. And that's a 4-year process. And as you said, it included team changes and all of that. But I want to go back, not that far, because I think that would be reductive, but let's talk a little bit about the last few months, because I think a lot of curling fans and people around the game, we think of peaking at the trials, and obviously you want to, re-peak at the Olympics as well. But in Canada, you've got a big hurdle to get over first, which is the trials. And so walk me through a little bit, and you don't have to go through everything and you don't have to divulge state secrets, but how did you and the team go about that preparation from maybe this summer to now, where it felt to me like you you did hit that peak or very close to that peak. You were the best team at the trials. I think that's obvious. Aside from winning, you were just the best team there. Can you walk me through that process a little bit? How do you go about that?
I mean, a big part of his discussion, it's not offside to say the one event we want to win this year is the Olympic trials. There's all these other teams like, well, you can't just prep for that because, your ultimate goal is the Olympics. 100%. We will now say we want to get on that podium, win a gold medal for Canada. But that's a big event to get in the way, and there's some unbelievable teams. So, sitting down, planning it out, we knew the Grand Slam schedule was quite nice this year with the events we had. So we only had one curling club event down at Okotoks, the ATB Classic down there. And then the rest of our events were in arenas. We were fortunate enough to be able to go to the Pan Continentals this year. Not too many people say that, but it was an unbelievable event. World Curling did a great job. They hosted a world-class event, but that allowed us a little bit more time to put the maple leaf on, play 10 ends. So we saw that as important. And then just the ability for the guys to be open about how they're feeling. Even as tight as it was to the trials, we had a training camp set up in Toronto. Ian Tetley was helping us out, and Scott Foster with ice in Oakville. But when they were in the slam in Tahoe, the boys just said, listen, we're feeling really good. So what are your thoughts on canceling Toronto? I'm like, oh, I'm game. Like, I need to trust them. They need to be able to trust each other. I think there's a huge balance at this level where they need to manage their work and family lives to ensure that's healthy to allow them to perform on the ice. So when we were able to find 3 more nights at home ahead of the trials, it was perfect. Our sports psychologist, Jason Boven, has done a really good job. I find we spend maybe 6 hours with him during the year. Like we're trying to find pieces to meet up with him, and he just challenges us with some great discussion. So before the season started, we basically set them out into learning events, testing events, and performing events. So the trials was the performance. So the start, we had to remind ourselves we're just learning, and there's some really big learning opportunities. And then going into the last couple of slams, the boys were playing really well. So from a technical perspective, I think we throw the rock better than anyone out there. On a consistent rock by rock basis. There's some players out there that can find a game or two an event, but our B game is becoming quite good, and that's what we're looking for. The way we practice is second to none in the world, and that has freed these guys up to find, in mid-event, if we go to the Halifax Curling Club, it takes us maybe 8 to 16 rocks to fix whatever they thought they didn't have, because I don't have to tell them. They objectively find it and so on. But that ability is to have 4 professionals say, this is what we want for the season. And they know everyone else is each teammate's working towards the same goal.
So are you saying that's something that happened in Halifax, that one of your players went to the Halifax Curling Club to fix something in the middle of the trials?
Well, like 2 of them. Yeah. Really? So I was there with Brett at the start of the week. So, just that sort of, the magic of coaching, the art of coaching versus the science of coaching. Brett struggled at the start, and I had booked, I think we're in the second end of our second or third game, and I contacted Helen Radford, who's a good friend of mine out in Halifax. I'm like, I need a contact for the Halifax Curling Club. Texted their manager. So in the middle of the game,
on the bench, you're doing this.
Yeah, I'm on the bench. I'm like, hey, I know it's not matching what he says, So I organize a practice for 10 a.m. the next day, and then we win the game. And I text him individually. I don't want to put out there for the team. And I said, how do you feel about doing like a recalibration session tomorrow at the Halifax Curling Club? And silence. And then I'm like, or we can go grab breakfast, because Brett and I bond a lot over eggs, bacon, sourdough toast, and he will get a one-side pancake. A couple of minutes later, he goes, how about we do both? So door opened, we head there. We honestly throw 16 rocks. And so it's me with lasers and cones, the way we set up every single practice. I grab my phone and videotape it. He sees what I see. The video shows him. So there's no opinions needed. There's no feelings. He leaves that. And his next game, he was just unbelievable. So, and then Marc, Marc's probably our most introspective technical player that I've ever worked with. So anytime he says, "Hey, can we grab some ice?" There's no question we're off to. So we were probably at the Halifax Curling Club 4 times, maybe 5.
Wow.
Yep. And a lot of times it was half an hour max. And the ice there, unbelievable. Like the best practice ice I've been on ever. So kudos to the team there, because that is to those people that say Eastern Canada has no great ice. Please stop by the Halifax Curling Club. You should have every provincial championship there.
There's an exception to every rule, I guess, Webby.
There is, yeah. So it was unbelievable. So it was, yeah. So that idea of just practicing and stuff is super important, and it's also knowing when to send those questions and in a way that the athlete will embrace them too.
Yeah, I mean that to me shows a level of trust, right? That you trust them to know that maybe they need to work on something in the middle, and they also trust you in a sense of they know that when they say, "Hey, can we cancel this training camp?" you're going to receive that in a way, because I do think there would be an element as a coach of, well, no, why would we cancel work? Like, why would we cancel the work on the thing we're doing? Like, I feel like there's got to be a part of you that goes, "Ooh, are we making a huge mistake here?"
Well, I thought about it after we lost to Cooey. That was first game, and Kev came out and just played like he can. And but you know what? Just the work we've done on the other side of the glass, where as a team, just allowed us to put that game aside and move forward. But there is a lot of trust. There's trust. It's knowing how to ask the question sometimes. I could have taken a different angle and said, that was a horrible game. I've booked practice ice and I expect you to be there. Some people might not argue that might have been the better way to do it if you don't know Brett, right? So knowing your teammates and being okay for him to say no in that moment as well is, there's been numerous times this last few seasons that guys have had an off game and came back and threw 95, and you let them work through it on their own. And I just know we have the ability with the drills that we have to allow him to find it really quickly and boost his confidence.
I love that. I mean, let's stay with Brett here for a second, because I talked to Marc about this, just how, he answered that question about, compliment a teammate, and he answered it talking about Brett's curling IQ. And you had even said, you're talking about Brett calibrating. Numbers aren't everything, but I believe in that first game against Cooey, the number was in the 60s. And then even for the week, he wasn't where maybe you would have expected him to be as far as the numbers go. And again, they're not everything, but Brad's first for skips and Marc's second for thirds and Ben's third for leads, and Brett's a little lower. But I do get the sense that obviously it's not just about the shooting with Brett, obviously with Marc's answer there. And then just talk to me a little bit about coaching Brett, because it does feel like that kind of him being described as a glue guy, that feels new to me. And again, I'm on the outside looking in, but on Team Guju, it seemed like, Brad kind of does his own thing. And so tell me about the development of Brett kind of growing into that role.
It's been honestly one of the most rewarding things to watch from a coaching standpoint. So Brett's 35, but sometimes I feel like he's like my kid. And, we've been able to talk about things. I've known Brett for a long time. When he was playing with Brad, there's a few times where if he wasn't playing well, I'd get a text from Brad and he'd say, "Brett's coming to Calgary for 2 or 3 days to see you." And he'd get all fixed up.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we've had a great relationship for a long time. But, coming off that, you mentioned Brad Gusha is a different team than we have, and very successful, but a different way of doing things. And I think Brett found on this team that idea that everyone has a leadership role to play, and mutual respect is super important. We've worked at that. Like, it's been very top of the list for him as the first year ended and the second year ended, where you can see this development to a point where he would mention at the start of a team meeting. We go around every team meeting. I'm still pen and paper guy with that stuff and just say, okay, so here's the stuff we've talked about, and we know these sort of 8, 9, 10 things are super important. What are you working on? And I would say, especially in the third year, numerous times Brett's like, I'm going to be a world-class teammate. That's top of the list. I'm going to be mindful of that. That's going to be a focus for this game. And because there's times you've all watched our team, other teams, where you watch them out there, and because of their own performance, or maybe because of the team performance, ego becomes a big thing. But we don't say like, my ego's bruised, I'm going to be a jerk right now. But they know, they want everyone else to know as athletes that this shouldn't be happening. So as men, what do? We slam brooms, we stop communicating, we be really, really quiet. Well, we're still trying to win a game, right? So we separate it numerous times, and just saying, you've got 2 shots and they're really important. You're going to throw those. And then you've got these other 6 shots. And whatever you're doing for those other 6 shots should be allowing your teammates to throw 90%. So I will challenge you when I see or I hear stuff that doesn't match up with that. So, we have our intentions of what we want to try to do. And now I'm going to challenge the guys on their attention to those details. So, were your intentions lining up with your attention that game? And honestly, a lot of times it's no, I can actually see that. And for Brett, I've never seen the guy more happy, more positive throughout an entire event. And he'll be the first to say, yeah, I was like, I don't know, 5th or 6th in seconds. I don't know, 4th.
6th.
I don't worry. I just knew there's some games where he wasn't on it. But if there's that other quotient, that non-statistical quotient, he was heads and tails above any of his peers. There's not a single second in the world that I'd want on my team right now going into the Olympics. And I have no doubt he's going to toss some 90s at the Olympics. But his ability in that event to put his ego aside and that was the best world-class teammate performance I've seen out of Brett Gallant in 4 years. And Marc was just like, this is unbelievable. He said it 20 times. He said it once in an interview. He said it 20 times during the week. Like, this is great. And he's thanking Brett all the time. But Marc's been open about that. When you do that, it allows me to perform, and I feel invincible. Like, I mean, Brett's a few inches taller than most people. Most people feel invincible when, how does he describe himself? Tall, wide, and skinny, right? When you got a tall, wide, and skinny guy behind you there, and his, Marc mentioned his curling IQ and the way he judges rocks and sweep rocks, it's pretty intimidating having him to play against. I think it's even more powerful to have him on your team. And he's found another gear in the teammate, and I love that for our team going into this next Bonspiel.
Yeah, it's great. I don't bring it up to say, obviously we know Brett has the capability of being the number 1 second in any given event. That wasn't bringing it up to say that, but it was just more that it felt like I did notice the team and you sort of rallying around that idea that it's about more than just your shot making. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up. And I want to bring up another sort of specific example, because you and I talked about this, but I also just think it's true for everyone. Sort of like maybe not a teachable moment is maybe not exactly the correct word, but as a viewer, game 1, you're in the trials final, you're playing Matt Dunstone, early control, you're up 3, you get that steal of 2 in the second end, you're up 3-0. And then going right into the 5th end break, Matt pops a 4 on you, takes the lead. And, I've been watching your guys since I was a teenager. I've been watching Brad Jacobs for 20 years, and Marc Kennedy and Ben and Brett. And they have all individually had moments in their career, or multiple moments, where that 4 would have broken them, either as a team or individually. And we don't see it exactly. We're not at ice level, but on TV, it looked to me like a team that truly was not bothered by the giving up of 4. So you are at ice level. Talk me through that, because it really felt like a moment where I was watching world-class mental performance, where I didn't see any sign of, holy shit, we just gave up 4, we're screwed.
Well, it was in the back of all of our minds. Holy shit, we gave up 4. I don't think we're screwed. Like, thank God best time to give up 4 is when you're up 3.
Yes,
right?
For
like,
sure.
Like we were not. But again, that's just the work that's been happening. So before Pan Continentals, our call with Jason, which was one of the worst Zoom calls I've ever been on, because we're driving 3 hours from Minneapolis, St. Paul to Virginia, so we lost him. But our biggest thing is when those things happen, what's next? So someone has to say it. Okay, boys, what's next? And we say that phrase, I don't know, 40, 50 times a game now. So that's happened and it's there. Man, I said it to someone just earlier. If I have a young male team, especially male, because we love banging brushes and breaking things and pretending that we should be making every shot, that end and that experience after, and those chosen conscious actions and words, I would show that end all the time. So here's the guys in their biggest event of the season of the last 4 years, and they're honestly focusing on what's next. Brad Jacobs, okay guys, whatever, like he's smiling, we're joking around. Ben Hebert, everyone loves to throw Ben on the bus. I talk about Brett's development as a teammate. Ben's unbelievable. Like Brad said in that video, like, I love how you take care of us. He's always had a team first mentality. And there's some sweeping communication on the last run back, and Ben just owned it. Guys, I couldn't hear it, and I just went head down, like I was worried about curling, and I screwed up. Okay. Like no one got mad, like just like, okay, I get it. So what do we do next? And we almost scored. We had a chance at 3 or 4 in the next end, but we had a couple misses, right? So that's even more, like you could throw a couple more logs on there. Let's break all of our brooms fire. But we took the 2, and when you break it down into just straight strategy and math, we're up 1 without hammer going into 7. It's a good position. It's not a full control position, but we've won a lot of games. And so getting that deuce right back, they allowed themselves to get 2 points right back, which was great. And I don't want people to think that those 4 athletes haven't worked on that, because they created that ability to get that next deuce. They created in the last 4 years the ability for them to win that game. And that wasn't on the practice ice. That is holding each other accountable, owning up to your own mistakes, and learning how to do that in big games.
Wonderful. I mean, I could talk to you all day about this kind of stuff, but we don't want to run too long here. I've just got 2 more for you. I want to talk about Cortina, because you were, as you said, on the other side of it, and described it as sometimes I had to make restaurant reservations and sometimes I had to drive people around. And now you're on the other side of it, but you are working with Curling Canada. And everything I've heard from curlers this year, obviously I talk to tons of curlers all the time at the slams, and I've talked to teams who have known for months they're going to be in the Olympics, the Mowats and the Schwallers of the world, and how they were having a ton of logistical challenges trying to get family there, all that kind of thing. There's, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and the Olympic Village situation seems weird, and there's a lot going on there. So are you kind of leaning on some of your past experience with Curling Canada to help these guys out? What is it looking like? Because from the outside, this does seem like, for something as grand scale as the Olympics, like quite a challenging scenario.
It's hugely challenging. So, when I started working as sort of our assistant team lead in 2010, Jerry Peckham said to me at the time, your job is just to make lemonade. That's it. So if they give you great lemons, and wow, we're excited. But
right,
if you dealt with bad batch, you're still expected to make lemonade. And we've seen, like, everyone's looking at the Olympics and listening in. We know the setup there. We're in portables that are 200 square feet, in space with 2 single beds in it, bathroom. The door opens wide into what should be middle of winter. So we're just going to have a great time. There's another one that our sports site Jason said, when shit like that happens, whether it's in game or whatever, someone's got to say, I'm having a great time. Right. And I think, I don't know if it was Brett that said that or I did after we gave out the 4. I'm like, I'm having a great time. Right. So same thing, like there's 7 other teams that would love to be going to Cortina with a maple leaf on their back, sleeping in questionable portables.
It doesn't stop at 7 either. It's probably closer to 30 or 40 or 50.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Like it's the nice thing about our team is everyone's been there and done that for an Olympics or 2 or 3. so that logistical side of things, like the partners and kids and stuff, they get it. So everyone's kind of working together. They're not expecting Curling Canada to say, hey, like feed this to me. There's not a lot of stuff that's pre-organized. So we're looking into tickets and accommodation. Everyone's sort of scrambling. There's been some great contacts. Craig Savile's wife, Karen Cumberland, amazing, reaches out to us. Again, you just know people. Hey, like they with Team Czechoslovakia, so Czechia. So they say, listen, we've got this place and there's some extra rooms. That's been super helpful. Everyone knows everyone's in the same boat, so the ability just to figure things out. But we're working behind the scenes now. Like I want the boys to have a really comfortable experience in those buildings. So I'm trying to work behind the scenes to ensure everything is sent over, found, whatever it is, from coffee to mattress pads to pillows to whatever they need. I'd rather have too much and say we didn't need some stuff than end up on Cortina. But we are looking at restaurant reservations, funny enough, like trying to get some suggestions just so we will make the right. Honestly, we do that for every big event. I'll start doing some for the Briar coming up. Just so when we look at our schedule, we know if we want to go for dinner that night, we've got some place. Mel Davidson's a really good friend of mine. And so GM of 2010 Olympic, or coach of the 2010 Olympic women's hockey team, GM 14 and 18. And we brought her in as a guest coach at the start of this cycle, and she met us in Okotoks. One of the things she said, and it seems so easy and simple, but no matter if you win or lose, have a plan. So guys, after this game, here's what we're doing. Not like if we win, hopefully we'll go for dinner. So we've said that, Ben said at the trials once, I remember, you guys would just need a plan. So that ability to look forward and plan for these things is something I am absolutely embracing, and will definitely lean on some past experience. We're super excited to be going there with Jeff Stoughton again. Jeff's been a great help with our team at the Pan Continentals and the World Championship last year. World-class skip with a couple world championships in his pocket. So having that resource to lean on as well is going to be helpful.
Wonderful. And some more resources in the form of cash. It's time for people to pony up. I'm hearing the numbers for what it costs to stay in Cortina. And look, if you want to sponsor Team Jacobs, I would say get in touch. They're looking. Okay, last question. I have to ask about my teenage son, Tyler Tardi, who I have been playing against since he was 13, and known him for a long time. Great friend of mine, a great person. It seems in particular, the two of you have sort of formed a great relationship. You were doing the little dances at the PanCon and whatever, but then also seeing you two out there matching rocks and everything. I guess just a very basic question. Why was he the choice? I mean, he obviously went to the Worlds and PanCons with you, but what is he bringing to the team where he was the choice? And then also maybe walk me through a little bit about how you came to select him. Was it something your team talked about before you even got to the trials? Is that a quick decision that has to be made once you win? Because I think some of the fans wouldn't know. So yeah, just tell me why he was the pick and how that kind of came to be.
Yeah, we have some time. We could have chosen him this week for sure.
Okay.
But if we go back, Tyler cemented his role in the team from at last year's World. So that was the ability for us to try someone out. So if we go back to then, because, he went to the Worlds and then the Pan Continentals with us. But if we go back to why we initially chose him, just to, he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife in terms of what he brings to the table. Can play pretty much any position if we really needed.
Yep.
A couple skipping championships in his background. Playing third this year with Cooey, played second last year. Has spent a lot of time, as you can see, learning how to sweep properly. And he's a great sweeper. His mind for the game is really cool. He just thinks. His personality is probably what everyone respects him as a player for sure. But I think that that personality, like when you have that train rolling, you don't want someone who's going to make it about themselves. And Tyler, I think he asked me like twice during the Worlds last year, a couple times after we met for coffee, what can I do better? I'm like, you're the fifth man. Like, but that's how professional he is, and that's how serious he wants to be. And he does that, whether he's on his own team or. It was interesting. It's been really cool getting to know Tyler. I didn't know him that well before we started working together as him as our fifth man. But his personality, he just goes with the flow. Doesn't get in the way, will say yes to anything we ask of him without going, really? Like that's where that's where you're asking me. And I've seen numerous fifth men over the last 20 years go into Worlds and Olympics where you've got to manage them, and the team's like, oh, and you'll see that the guy doesn't get to the next international championship. So he brings a ton of value for us. You mentioned our relationship. I've never skipped in my life. So, when I'm sitting on the bench with Tyler or Jeff, if there's a big timeout at the Olympics, I will defer to the experts on the bench for sure. And just say, guys, if you have a good idea, just go. Like, again, I can't challenge the guys to get their ego out of the way. If I'm sitting on the bench with Tyler and Jeff, I don't think it takes a university degree to say I'm the third best skip. So, but we're talking already about just scouting teams and so on. He's texting us a bunch of times, what do I need? What do you need of me? Is there anything I'm missing? So our team will be better prepared because Tyler Tardi's on it.
Wonderful. Well, no better way to leave it off than that. Congratulations again on all of your accomplishments. I know I'm excited for you guys. I think everyone else in Canada is too. It's going to be a fantastic run for you guys in Cortina. And you know what? Thanks for doing this. I know there's tons of great nuggets anytime I talk to you for any curling teams out there. So thanks, Webby. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it, John. Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Broom Brothers. Thanks to Marc and Paul. Two fantastic chats. Don't know about you, but I cannot wait to cheer on Team Jacobs at the Olympics, especially after talking to them. It's just so cool to hear the inside info, hear about the process. I always love how honest both of those guys are with me when I chat to them. And two phenomenal chats. Couldn't ask for two better interview subjects so soon after an Olympic trials win. So really appreciate both of them. As they both alluded to, insanely busy time to be a Team Canada member right now, but of course they wouldn't trade it for anything. So thanks again to Marc and Paul. Thanks to you for listening. We will be back next week. Robbie and myself will be breaking down the Hearing Life Canadian Open in Saskatoon. Maybe we'll have a little bit more about the trials, just a little bit more fallout from that as we move towards the new year, the Scotties, the Brier, the Olympics. There's just so much more great stuff to come. So thank you so much for joining us here on the Broom Brothers. We will see you back here very soon. Goodbye.